What's up, guys? My name is Victor, and every Friday I make a video where I answer as many questions as I can about the fourth density ascension that many of us are going through. So if you guys have any questions relating to the spiritual awakening process, ascension, anything around that domain, go ahead and leave a comment below, and then next Friday I will get through as many of them as I can. So today we'll probably get through 3 or 4, maybe 5 questions, and some of them ranging from when will the ascension date be, when will disclosure be, why do I have ringing in my ears, how can I speed up the spiritual awakening process, how can I contact my spirit guides. Question 1, how can I speed up the spiritual awakening process? I can understand the desire for this because the spiritual awakening process is quite demanding and challenging, and there really is not a single second to rest or to catch your breath. It's just this massive roller coaster of ups and downs and twists and turns, so I get it. And there's actually a practical solution to this. You can, in fact, speed it up quite a bit, and I'll tell you how to do that. Basically, your higher self, your soul self, your spirit self is orchestrating this entire thing, basically. And it's always giving you subtle hints of where to go next, guidance, if you will. Oftentimes, this guidance drastically contradicts your conscious, rational, reasoning mind. And therefore, we resist the nudges of our spirit for a while. And there's always a lot of different steps to take, and many times we get, again, tripped up. We delay taking that step because we don't see it as making a whole lot of sense. However, the more you discover that your higher self is always right, there's always a great and just a ridiculously awesome reason why it's telling you to go in this direction. The more that happens, the more you start to have faith in it, and therefore you can just start to flow with the guidance of your spirit a lot faster, and then go through all the different challenges and situations and circumstances required for your full-blown enlightenment to finally manifest. When will disclosure, when will ET disclosure finally happen? I would invite you to take a very different perspective on this. A lot of people are very anxious for this, and I would even go to say a wee bit selfishly, because the reason disclosure has not yet happened is because most of the planet they'd lose their fucking mind. They can't handle that kind of information. There's too many people who are way far too asleep, and that would just crack them. That would be wrong of the aliens to just force themselves onto a civilization that is not yet ready. Their minds are so closed and so imbued with this limited state of awareness and limited ideologies of how things actually are. It'd be too much for them. That's why what's happening is it's slowly seeping in. There's people like us talking about it right now. That's a new thing. And it's just slowly going to have to become less and less weird and impossible seeming, and it'll slowly become more and more and more normal, where your normal everyday people start to kind of find themselves talking about it at the work cubicle, or at the water cooler, at their normal white collar type job. Once that sort of thing starts to happen, then it'll probably happen. No one knows a fucking date. And perhaps the people who do know the date, there maybe are people who know when exactly, but they're mature enough and they understand that's a pretty important piece of information that it's not necessary for any of us to know yet. So I would say have a little bit more sympathy for the people who aren't yet ready. Me and you are ready. Shit, yeah. But, I can wait. I don't want to have a planet full of people terrified out of their minds. What is with this ringing in my ears, someone asks. And that is just another one of the very many physical symptoms that occur when you are inviting and allowing higher vibrational energies into your being that your body is not yet quite ready for. And it's just constant, gradual raising of our energy. So as as you increase this energy, there's a temporary, manifestation of physical symptoms. And it could be ringing in your ears. It can be aches and pains. There's a whole slew of symptoms. And I talk quite a bit about on the channel, and none of them are really anything to worry about. Again, it's just your physical body's reaction to squeezing in more energy that it's not used to. It's really as simple as that. And the only other possibility it could be is sometimes we manifest like injuries and problems to guide us in a particular direction. For example, I was a personal trainer for a very long time, and my whole identity was basically evolved around being like the fitness guy. And I started getting like, if you heard of golfer's elbow, tennis elbow, I got golfer's elbow in both elbows. And it was because I was training people, and what was involved with my personal training, I'd always have to hand people dumbbells. And it just became like where it was time for me to move into a new direction, and I wasn't like getting the hint. So I started to develop these problems, these like health concerns that caused me to think like, why is this fucking happening? And then of course I started to understand, wow, every time you hand these weights off, it bothers your elbows. So I eventually, again, that led me into the final decision of I'll stop personal training. So that would be the only other thing. Maybe something you're doing or sort of something in your life that's causing the ringing in the ears as a side effect. Maybe you're like, I don't know, going to too many rock concerts, or it could be a lot of different things. You just have to ask yourself. But I would suspect that because it's a pretty common symptom, that it's just it's just like an ascension symptom that is transient, will pass, and it's kind of a cool sign that you're housing lots of energy. So that's a good thing. How can I contact my spirit guides? A lot of people are asking about that lately, and it's a really cool idea to be able to contact your spirit guides. I understand, but I made a video about this, but the whole idea of a spirit guide, the whole idea of why we're here, the whole idea of the whole Earth scenario, especially at this time of transformation, is to come into our own power. Doesn't always serve us to be able to ask our guides for like anything, really. We are the masters. We know everything. There's nothing that we don't really know. We just forgot how to access our already knowingness. And look at it this way. Any question you have for your guides, I dare you to ask yourself. Just ask yourself out loud. And oftentimes, you know the answer. It might not even be a very clear thing you can just spit out. But there's usually a sensing of the answer. And oftentimes the answer is you don't need to know that right now. You always know what you need to know when you need to know it. But oftentimes it's a distraction and an unnecessary concern of our ego mind to need to know things that aren't really relevant for the moment you're in. So I would just say, if you can't contact your guides, be patient. You eventually will. It'll be very commonplace to communicate with our guides in the near future, but only at a time when we're mature enough not to want to ask them a million questions. And I say that because I was like that. I mess with tarot cards a lot. That's kind of how I communicate with my guides and get guidance. And I used to be so, and still I struggle with it. I get so, like, any little concern pops in my head, I'm like, asking the guys, asking the fucking tarot cards. And that, a lot of times I'll get the Fool card saying like, stop it, asshole. You're just being an immature little baby. Just wait. And I don't mean to call any of you a baby. You guys are fucking badasses if you're going through this process. And I understand the longing and the desire to talk to your guides. So I say that with just a little bit of silly humor. I hope you don't take offense to that. But I would ask you to examine your own motives seriously. And here's the thing. If you truly want to contact your guides, you will when the time is right. And whatever process is going to actually be the one that works for you will fall into your life naturally, and you'll know it when you see it. Lastly, when are we going to finally fucking ascend? When is the ascension date? What year? How long? How much longer do we have to put up with this crazy Earth scenario? I understand the desire to know, and I held on to that question myself for a long time. And you know what? It actually led me to a lot of disappointment, because there's a lot of people who were certain that the ascension was to take place at a particular year or time frame, and all those have passed. And here we are. I would just invite you to tune in to what's going on yourself. What I gather is that there is becoming a very distinct separation of like energetic states. And energetic states can underlie anything: a person, a place, an area, a vehicle, a TV show, a song, anything. And we're starting to be able to discern the different vibratory levels of particular manifestations of that level. And there seems to be, I know for me, a growing repulsion and energetic dissonance to vibrational places, people, etc., that are a clash with myself. For example, I just went to the mall today and bought some new clothes. That is a very, at least the one I went to, a very, without being too judgmental, but it's a fucking low vibration area where the people, the stores, all the electronics, it's very disorienting for me. In fact, pretty soon I have to go I'm recording with my phone, but I broke my Apple iPhone case and I have to go into this Apple store. I don't know if you guys have been in an Apple store, but it's the most disorienting, god-awful place for me to be in. There's just all these electronics, and like in the past, I would have not even noticed that. But now, because I'm so sensitive and my vibration is so much higher, these lower vibration ass things are just so like, it's very hard to be in. And what's happening is there's two different directions, basically. People raising and places either staying the same or lowering. It's kind of hard to tell. And it's just, there's this growing separation. And eventually, right now it's a bit uncomfortable to go in these places. Pretty soon it's going to be like, you might start getting sick. At some point it's going to be just where you just don't fucking go there. And then there's going to be a point where you just forget that it even existed. I don't think it's going to be this grand like event. Maybe it will be, and that would be pretty cool too. But I'm not like waiting for it, okay? And I don't recommend anybody else do, because the whole idea of like waiting for the day to come, that implies a passive attitude towards the whole scenario. You're here, you understand that we are ascending, that the vibrations are changing, that people are evolving. You understand this at this point in history when most don't, for a reason, because you are the few who are destined to evolve yourself, to be an example for others. It's not something that we're just waiting for. It's not something that's just going to happen to us. We are making it happen. And it takes a lot of effort and courage and strength and persevering through all these challenges that you're being faced with. So the faster you can become your own master, the faster you, for one, won't give a shit what happens, because you'll be in this fucking Zen-like state. And two, faster other people are going to kind of absorb your energy, and then there can be this like crossing of the threshold, if you will. But yes, you don't need to wait for it. You don't need to wait for it to happen, because even within this brief period where you can kind of dance between both sides of the spectrum for a little while, you can still create your ideal, awesome, high-dimensional reality bubble within this, because it all is us. It all is you. It's a big paradox. Yes, we have this shared collective reality we're living in, where I can go and talk to you on the phone or whatever, but also, it's also us. It's hard, I don't know how to, it's kind of hard to put into words, but your world is you. Your identity is your world, and therefore it's a reflection of you. And we have a bunch of souls roughly in the same like vibratory level, so it appears that we have this like collective world, but really it's just you. It's just me. You're talking to yourself. You're listening to yourself right now. Ponder that one. But yeah. Again, I understand wanting to know, because it's challenging what we're going through. It's fucking viciously challenging. I will not deny that. And I've sat there, and the only thing that has gotten me through many times is like the knowing that we're going to fucking have an awesome ascension payoff at some point. But I've come to realize that waiting and longing for that especially is counterproductive and only makes me less happy and pleased and content within my current moment.